Hi, this is Frank Simon with the rest of the news, and we've got a tremendous program lined up for you. And our special guests today are Cindy Marlow.
Hello.
And John Brewer.
Yes.
And the first thing we want to talk about is this huge tax that Jefferson County Public School is trying to put through. And there's an excellent video on this tax, and we're going to try to show it to you now.
Here we go.
Today, the County Board of Elections certified a petition to let voters decide whether or not to increase taxes in November. The No JCPS tax hike group gathered more than 40,000 signatures last month.
That's saying there's a lot of signatures.
Well, let me tell you a story about a boy named Charlie whose life became a tragic mess. You see, he wanted
Here's part of the movie. This is the child named Charlie. He's trying to go to school and learn how to read. And
this is a true story, correct?
there they are. They have so many fights in the school and bullies and everything like that that nobody's able to learn anything. So that's the problem with the tax. The more money they get, the worse the results are. We've got failing schools in Jefferson County, and we've been pumping more and more money into them for years and years and years, and they're getting worse and worse and worse. And so we think that we should not put this more money, especially as John was saying a few days ago, oh, there's the teacher, they're beating her up too. And it's just a terrible school system, and they do not need more money, especially now that everyone is under financial stress. So they're saying that the best thing to do is to not give them more and more and more and more money, because
they're not even seeing us on Facebook.
They didn't teach him didn't teach him the math.
Yes,
our tax money's gone out the door. He's been bullied and teased and together now.
Now there's Superintendent Polio. Vote no. That's the important message right there. Vote no on this huge Jefferson County public school tax increase. Now, the other thing we want to say is that we have signs like that one that you just saw that says vote no on this increase in school tax. So if you want one of those signs, they're free, and the number to call is 895-5025, 895-5025. That's in Jefferson County, which is where the tax is going to be. And we've got a whole lot of signs, and everybody ought to have a sign.
Yes, and it's about, we're not saying we're not interested in children. Of course, we want our children to learn. But if you were working for somebody, or you were the boss and your person below you didn't perform their job, and they were actually getting worse, or like, say, for instance, they were stealing. They're actually stealing our children from us because they're teaching us how to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, would you give them a raise? Of course not. We're not talking about learning curves. But I'm talking about, think about it. If, say, you had somebody that was a carpenter, and they said, and they're not doing anything right, they're punching holes in the wall. Well, of course you wouldn't give them a raise. Why should we give them raises for having children fight with their teachers and disruptive?
No discipline.
No discipline. How do you expect us as citizens to give somebody
example? Say if you had a factory that was making airplanes, and none of the airplanes were flying.
Exactly.
Would you put more and more money into the airplane factory when it wasn't making any airplanes that fly?
Yeah.
Of course not.
Well, in addition to that, we've proven, and this was probably not a subject for today, but we've proven that they're putting in all kinds of other Black Lives Matter stuff, doctrine and everything into the school.
And this teaches our children to be violent.
Violent.
Because it's okay, because guess what? You get paid $12 million for being violent.
That's right.
You get paid for going against the
children
system.
Are getting paid, not in the schools, but on the streets for making more and more violence, breaking windows, building,
they're not held accountable.
Burning and everything.
They're not held accountable.
So it's a terrible thing to think you're going to pour more and more money into a failed system. And what they need is a little wake-up call that we're not going to keep pumping more and more of our money into their anti-God curriculum.
That's what I'm
they
gonna
took
do.
God out of the public schools,
Yes.
and now they got violence and beat up and bullies and all of that, and they want us to support it. Not going to happen. Okay, if you want Jefferson County Public School tax sign that says no new taxes, vote no, and then just give us a call here in Jefferson County, 895-5025. 895-5025. Well, we've got a lot to cover, so we're going to say something about the general election information. You know, they used to have just 4 or 6 places where you can vote, but so many people complained that they had to go ahead and get more voting places. So now for early voting is Kentucky Exposition.
The dates are October
Oh, yeah.
13th through the 20th.
October 13th
Starting.
for early voting. The Kentucky Exposition Center, the Yum Center, the Kentucky Center for African American Heritage, and the Louisville Marriott East.
It looks like they're all from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Saturday.
Yeah,
Even a Saturday, that's
yeah,
what it looks like.
Monday through Saturday.
And election day, of course, is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So
Now,
that kinda
if you
looks
want
like-
more information about that, call that same number, 895-5025. Now, on election day, there's 16 more places that you and I can vote. Just give us a call and we could either send you this list or tell them to you.
Or you could go online and get this from the general, looks like it's the general election information, probably from this,
Jefferson County.
either that or the Secretary of State's website, probably. Yeah, one of the two. Yeah, I would say
But if you
Jefferson
want a
County.
copy of these information on absentee ballot,
We can email them to you.
just call that number, 895-5025. So that's the voting
When
situation.
is the absentee ballot deadline? Has that on there?
Okay, it says here, the
Oh, yeah.
absentee, you can drop them off at the box locations from October 13th to the day before the election, November 2nd. And they're at those 6 that we, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas.
And the last day to request one is when? Does it have that?
October 5th,
That's what I was thinking, October 5th.
this last day. So that's coming up. That's what,
Yeah.
2 days from now?
Yeah,
So I'll actually encourage you just to go in person.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't requested by now, and once you request it, you cannot vote in person.
Oh, no, you can't vote
Can't vote in
twice.
person. So remember,
Yeah.
well, no, you just can't vote. If, say, for instance, you just didn't get it in time, you say you requested and you never got it, I wouldn't request it at this late date.
Well, they said that where they're having a lot of absentee ballots, that they're finding where ballots were thrown in the wastebasket.
In a dumpster. I
Yeah.
heard 100,000 somewhere up in
Terrible.
Pennsylvania.
There's a huge amount of
Never
fraud.
already started.
Yeah.
well, if it comes to people though who can't get out, that we
Oh,
want.
yeah. That's
Oh,
one. That's
yes,
wanna
we
make sure
want
that
you
they-
to.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
We don't want to discourage that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I'm glad you said that. 'Cause
Okay. Now, the other thing that's come up is Brianna Taylor there's a report on Brianna Taylor called the Tatum report that's come from police investigation of what actually happened.
do we read it here?
Yeah.
This was from the 3rd of December, LMPD.
Yeah.
Homicide unit learned that the vehicle, their most recent victim, Fernandez Bowman, was found was a rental and had been rented by Brianna Taylor. So she was involved way back 2016 with the address of 3003 Springfield Drive, number 4, Louisville, Kentucky, at approximately 5:53 hours, which is 5:30 in the morning. Detective Baker and Speaks went to Ms. Taylor's address to conduct an interview regarding any knowledge she may have had would be relevant to the homicide investigation. Upon contact, Ms. Taylor the detectives observed a male in the apartment with her, identified as Jamarcus Glover, who was born in 1990. Ms. Taylor stated that she did not know the victim, and that she found out that what had possibly happened from her boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover. Ms. Taylor said that she had been dating him for approximately 3 to 4 months and allowed him to drive her rental car. So Ms. Taylor provided detectives with a contact number, which is redacted. And so what this shows is there's a consistent history of jail calls between Jamarcus Glover and Ms. Taylor. This is what we call evidence. We are sad that anybody has to die.
Right.
But unfortunately, when you're involved in things or people that are doing illegal criminal activity,
Drugs.
Yes, not just drugs. That's what it was. Then you're putting yourself into harm's way.
And they found money in the apartment that presumably was from drugs.
I mean, unfortunately,
a lot of money.
She put herself in this position, and unfortunately, a precious young life was taken, and her family and her friends have to live without her, and that's sad. But she wasn't innocent. Let's just put it that way.
What's that website, John?
It's TatumReport.com.
TatumReport.com, and there's a lot of information on there.
Just go down, scroll down. It's right on it's in the first part of it.
So, I mean, there's so much false information out there.
But these are two people. These are on Facebook, where I first discovered that. I could put that up real quick if you want me to, just for a second.
Yeah, could you?
That'd be good.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, we don't have time to actually watch it all, but.
We could give you the gist of it. Explain what we're listening to here.
They knocked.
Oh, here we go.
And just didn't. So I don't know, ABL. Bro, I'm sick of this, man. I'm sick of it.
I mean, you know what? You ain't the only one. I've been tired of it for a long time. And I feel like all of this is just kind of being drummed up for a different reason, because it's not about actually trying to get justice. You know, I don't know if you saw that video of the Antifa people with the whole U-Haul van full of riot supplies are pulled up. I'm like, all right, so regardless of what the verdict was going to be or the charges, it didn't even really matter. They were already set up to riot. Yeah. So that was already kind of a foregone conclusion.
Exactly.
They used all this stuff to push for whatever they want to push for, and people are buying it up. They're eating into it. You know, I saw Jalen Rose, former NBA player, now is a commentator on ESPN. He was giving the false narrative like today, talking about she was sleeping in her bed. She didn't do anything. She was the ENT. It's like, bro, come on, man. The documents are out. Yeah. They put it out there. You can just read it. Take a moment to read. Get yourself educated.
That's right.
And you're in the media. You're on TV talking like this.
Yes,
and
sir.
People are believing it. And yeah, I'm tired really of the ignorance, the willful ignorance. We're giving you the facts. You had documents early. I'm like, hey, go to Brennan Tatum website, Tatum Report, look at it, read it. It's right there. People didn't want to do it. Here come the Attorney General saying the same exact things that you had said earlier. Read the information. Look at the press report. Look at the press conference. Don't want to do it. People got their own little thing that they've made up in their mind, and they want to go off of that.
And now I'm going to cut that short just because of time, but
that's very good.
Awesome.
They go through it, and they are both police officers.
Those two?
The one on the left, he was a SWAT officer. So he knows exactly what's going on, what the process was. Yeah. So, I mean, I highly recommend anybody that's got any kind of doubts or anything. These are factual.
Go to Tatum
accounts.
TatumReport.com.
It's got all kinds of information. What it is, it's a site that's telling people real narratives against all these false narratives that are being given out there by the Black Lives Matter. Even the Democrats, like I heard Schumer say, it's false. It's a myth. It's a myth. What's happening in Washington State is not happening. There's no such thing as Antifa. The man's, I mean.
Who said that?
Not Schumer. Yeah, Schumer.
Schumer and
Schumer up in D.C. They asked him one time, well, what about all these things and riots going on? He said, it's a myth. There's not
happening.
Yes, it's not happening. And so these are people who are trying to get the truth out there. And I loved what he said, willful ignorance. You
Yeah.
are willingly allowing yourself to be ignorant by not educating
Well,
yourself.
it's hard to find the truth. You have to have a reliable site like John just said,
Yes.
TatumReport.com,
Right.
TATUM.
Thank you for finding that.
REPORT.com, because there's so much false information on a lot the news and the internet and social media, and even people will tell you in conversations that there are a lot of stuff that isn't true.
Exactly.
So we thought we ought to put that on the program today, because the truth is known, but you have to be willing to find it and read it. Now, the other thing is we wanted to talk about the Amy Comey Barrett information that's on this new Supreme Court justice.
I've heard two different things. They want to have confirmation hearings. There's no confirmation hearings needed because there's no one that you're trying to convince because they have enough votes to confirm her.
Yes.
So Feinstein has asked for confirmation hearings to slow it down.
Yeah.
And then Mitch is saying that he's having a tough race and that he may now wait until after the election. But I heard him say this on a news report, but this was early on when he first announced it last week when we were in D.C. Said that he was going to have it all said and done by the 2nd of October. And now they're saying he wants to wait. So I don't know what's the deal. We need to pour out all our emails to him and calls to say we want it done now.
Well, this is another case where politics is intruding into the process.
Yes, the process. Good point. They're slowing down the process. And, everybody out there says, well, Mitch stopped it when Obama was in office. This is where you are willfully ignorant. And that's, I love that because it's true. You do not understand that if you don't hold the Senate under Obama, what's it called?
Elections have consequences.
Well, we had the Senate then, so we weren't going to confirm anybody like Garland because he was so liberal.
Yeah.
So that's why he didn't do it. Now, if the Senate right now was owned by, or was the majority, was the Democrats?
Oh, they'd push it right through.
No, they wouldn't push it right through. They wouldn't push Trump's
They'd push
through.
their people through.
Exactly. But if Trump is in now and the Democrats have the majority in the Senate, well, then we wouldn't get our man. This is called the consequences of elections. So, or elections have consequences. So now that we have the control of the Senate, we can do it legally, lawfully, and constitutionally. So anybody tells you that Mitch is not fair, no, I'm sorry. We have the Senate. If you all had the Senate, we wouldn't have a prayer with Miss Barrett.
And
But
here's the opposite
that's the way
side.
it is.
Here's the opposite side of that. Okay. I might be willing to say, okay, I'm not going to necessarily rely on that particular, we have the Senate now statement, but I would look at the last almost 47 months of torture that they have put the president through and put the administration through trying. It's amazing that President Trump has gotten as much done as he's got done.
Right.
He's got,
right.
I could go one
He's
thing
got a
after another.
resume.
Yes,
He's got a
it's like, I
resume.
think somebody had like 100 different things from the embassy to the get rid of TPP, to the United States, Mexico, Canada deal, to being independently owned. We have 27,000 Mexican troops at the border. He has gotten in good terms with the Mexican president.
Right.
The highest unemployment, or the lowest unemployment for minorities. I could go on and on
I
and
hope
on.
that continues, because I heard just before I came in that there's another caravan forming down in
heard that
Guatemala.
In Guatemala.
In Guatemala.
But he's got 27,000 Mexican troops, and they're not letting them through.
I hope that's a positive thing. I hope
Okay.
we'll see.
Now here's
Yeah, I heard that
McConnell's
too.
phone number.
Okay. Is that local?
582-6304. I
Is that-
believe that's local.
Okay, but if you want to call him in the Senate, But is that Louisville's number?
That's the Louisville number.
Well, if you want to know where, like if you're in Bowling Green or Paducah or Lexington, you go into their website, McConnell.gov, I think it's Senate.gov, and you'll have all of his numbers. But read the local again.
The local numbers are better than the Washington.
Yes, go through the local so you can talk to their aides. Yes.
Yeah. So that number again is 582-6304.
And if you're not in a 502 area, you would dial 502. Like if you're in Lexington, you want to call the Jefferson County one, call it. But you have one too. I don't know what that is. I don't have it with me.
582-6304. And ask the Senator McConnell to go ahead and put through the Amy Barrett for judge for Supreme Court.
Before the election.
Before the election.
Because that's how they plan on winning.
That's right.
It is how they plan on winning. They've pretty much, shown us that they're ready to take it to court.
Yeah.
And they want to, that's how they get the left gets their ideals or their ideologies passed, because they go and bypass Congress, which is supposed to make the law.
Right.
And the judicial courts, of course,
absolutely.
They've
been pushing abortion and same-sex marriage and everything else.
And they've done it
for
all through the
years and years
system.
and years.
And we're sick of it. We're tired of it.
That's right. It's time to get an honest person on the Supreme Court.
You know what she said? I heard her say it too, and she says it. It's her quote that, and I'm going to butcher it, but she said it's about looking at a law, a legislation, and looking at it, and seeing if it's constitutional, regardless if whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah,
that is a true justice
statement.
That's a true judge.
And I'll say something else about her that I heard. I feel like is very positive. She was a clerk for Scalia.
Oh yeah,
wow.
That's a good thing.
That's right.
Okay, John, can you finish us up with a statement about Craig Kelly from Australia?
Oh yeah.
Craig Kelly from Australia. Let me bring this video into play.
You got a video on him too?
I do.
You want to talk about it first before we?
Yeah, we'll talk about it before we switch
leave the air
here. But the thing of it is Craig Kelly is a member of Parliament in Australia.
Yeah.
And they're not having elections right now that I'm aware of. I don't know exactly when their elections begin, but I know they don't time the same as ours. It's beginning to be almost summertime there.
Go ahead.
Oh,
as we approach winter,
winter.
As we approach winter, they approach summer.
Yeah.
So they have in 2 of their provinces, and they got like 6 provinces, which would be kind of the equivalent of really large states.
Like New Zealand and
well, not New Zealand, but Victoria and Queensland, and
I got that wrong, didn't I?
That's right.
But the thing is, in at least 2 of these, they've just said no. These studies, they rely on what they go to is they rely on one report that was found to be faulty.
Yeah.
And so this one Parliament member, he deserves incredible credit, because he is standing up to them and saying their prohibitions end in October.
Okay.
About what? What are we talking about?
About that drug that the president mentioned.
Say it, John.
Okay. Facebook, I'm sorry, hydroxychloroquine.
Okay, let me just say one thing quick. I'll let you finish. I saw a video, and they said in northern Africa, where they were taking this medicine to prevent malaria, they had almost no COVID epidemic whatsoever. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know about this. The attorneys that were handling my mother's estate, she had got sick with this. She'd been sick for like 3 weeks. We didn't know what was wrong with her, and it finally came out that she had that, and she didn't have a clue about hydroxychloroquine. And it's like,
and you told her.
I started to mention it, but it wasn't worth the, at that point she was back, but I mean,
Oh.
I think she went through the whole process, maybe even on a ventilator. It was a bad deal for her, rough ride. But I mean, why go through the rough ride if these studies, and they are pretty conclusive.
Yeah.
What this video shows, and I'm just going to
show a little.
I'm going to show just a little bit of it here.
One notes that on the
You can hear
20th of
Dr.
August 2020, the member for Hughes gave a
This
speech
is the
in
kind of
Paris
guy. This is our man here.
supporting
He's
the use of
he's the
hydroxychloroquine
hero.
to treat COVID-19.
It's low. I
The
can't hear
National
it.
COVID-19 Clinical Evidence Task Force, comprised of 29 peak health bodies, has also advised that hydroxychloroquine is potentially harmful and no more effective than standard care.
Craig Kelly joins us now on Outsiders. Craig, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good to be with you, Rowan.
Now,
This is
tell
our
us a bit,
hero.
first of all, about primum non nocere. This is the idea of do no harm. What's it mean?
Well, that is one of the part of the Hippocratic oath that doctors swear that goes back actually more than centuries. It goes back to BC times. And the principle of that, Rowan, is that doctors first do no harm.
Right.
And yet what we've got here in Australia, the first thing that our health bureaucrats did is interfere in the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship and prohibit Australian doctors from prescribing hydroxychloroquine to their patients if those doctors thought it might help and might actually save their lives. So they have violated the very first principle of the Hippocratic Oath. Now, if these medical bureaucrats are going to do so, they can only do so if the evidence is actually beyond all reasonable doubt that one, hydroxychloroquine doesn't work, and two, it is dangerous. Now, Brian, the recent studies
Can you
just
hear it
show
really
that
good?
proposition is no longer
I can't hardly
sustainable.
hear it.
It is absolutely a joke, and these medical bureaucrats,
Must be
they
my
must
phone,
lift their
earphone.
bans. Otherwise, Rowan, they are engaged in crimes against humanity.
That's
And
right.
they should be taken to the criminal court in The Hague, because what they are doing, they are withholding treatment. They're withholding medical treatment from Australians that the evidence shows can save their lives.
We'll go on to that evidence in a sec, Craig, but I want to go back to Chris Bowen. He referred to a mob called the COVID Task Force and the TGA. It appears that all our chief medical officers take their information from the TGA. The TGA takes their information from this so-called COVID Task Force that Bowen referred to. But what is fascinating, you have uncovered that the task force themselves rely on something called the recovery study, which has been totally and thoroughly debunked. So we have the top
And
mob
so
in
there you
Australia
go.
relying on.
Now, what
You
did
know-
they just say there? Because I couldn't hardly hear on mine. Only one feed was coming in on one ear, and I couldn't.
Well, you know,
hardly hear
we
it.
saw that video of the doctors in Washington had the news conference, and the one lady who was from Africa
Yes.
said, I've treated 350 patients and they all recovered.
Yes.
And then you got the evidence of Northern Africa where they were using
France.
hydroxychloroquine.
France.
Huh?
And in France too.
Oh, yeah. And that they had almost no COVID epidemic whatsoever. God bless you. Tune in again next week for the rest of the news.